What is going on? We are to the nightcap here on our Sunday night wildcard weekend game with the Browns and the Steelers. They just played last week, and the Browns won by 2 against a team that did not have any starters basically playing. And the Browns have been just absolutely hit this week with COVID protocols and guys being out. They're going to be out without their head coach, Stefanski. So I think all those play a factor in it, but I do think it is a little bit more narrative than not. I mean, we see tonight somebody like Taylor Heineke taking Tom Brady down to the wire. So I don't think, I think the line has moved enough to show what they think will happen, but I don't think that means that you completely fade the Browns. But I think you can definitely take it into consideration. So the Steelers are a 6-point favorite here at home. Over under is 47.5. Which I think is probably right. I think it goes over, but just depends on how bad Ben Roethlisberger looks with his noodle arm, but we'll see. So let's get onto the pit side first. Ben Roethlisberger at 10,400. Last game he played was week 16. Mason Rudolph started week 17 because that game didn't matter to them. He threw for 341 yards, 3 TDs. They were losing, and the game was close. So then you see that those types of numbers. And you see some of those numbers in games that have been like that. But his 20-point upside is not there as often as we've seen in the past. And a couple of reasons for that is, well, I shouldn't say that. He still has 20-point upside here for sure. But they're throwing it short so often that, they're just dinking dunking down the field, and the offense, is kind of like hasn't been that great, since they were like 11-0. But I think he's definitely playing cash. I think a lot of people will play him. I prefer actually Deontay Johnson, for cheaper, not that you can't play both, but for 9,800, I think Deontay Johnson is one of my favorite plays on the entire slate. Even though he drops the ball a ton, they're going to keep throwing the ball because they know he has the best ability after he catches the ball to do something with it. So those target shares are just way too massive to fade. Smith-Schuster, as I've talked to with one of our other coaches, Zach Keats, who is a Steelers phenomenon, super fan. And he says that, they like to use Smith-Schuster as the chain mover, and they do. And they use him short yardage. He's still going to have some longer catches, but, that first and goal at the 5, they're going to be looking to him. So I do like him as well for 8,800. I prefer Deontay Johnson, but if you want to play both, I'm fine with that too. I think Claypool has, besides obviously week 17, when the other guys weren't playing, has kind of regressed enough, and that his role is definitely wide receiver 3. He has big playability, but I prefer Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson over Claypool. So I can see a situation where you possibly fade Roethlisberger and play Deontay Johnson as Smith-Schuster, and that could work out really well. Then you have James Conner, who, I've had him in all these season-long leads. It's been a misery after he was, a stud there for a while. But, the last 2 weeks he had 5 catches in both those games, which definitely kind of skewed his total line. He had a short rushing touchdown against Indy, but I don't know. He's really tough to trust. It feels like you're holding a glass bottle while standing on an ice skating rink, and it just takes like one person to knock you off, and boom, he's out of the game. He's under the tent. See you later. So little risky, a little bit GPP. If he actually is going to be the lead back, gets 15 to 20, it gets 10 to 15 touches, and is the primary pass catcher, I think he could smash 7,800 too, but probably not somewhere I'm going to land often here on this slate. I do like Eric Ebron at 5,400. I think he is really underpriced, actually. He didn't play week 17. He had a 1 bad game week 15. He might even get hurt that game. I don't remember. But Roethlisberger loves going to him, and he's going to give him the targets, like 7 targets in week 16, week 13, week 12, both had 11 targets, 7 targets, so 5,400, I think you can already put at least a 5 to 7 point floor for him there with upside of double digits. Steelers D, I'm fading. Boswell's leg is good. Don't worry about that. He did practice without restrictions this week, so he is definitely in play at 3,600. Then you get down to James Washington, who's decent value. He's kind of like that home run hitter. Roethlisberger takes like 2 shots for a 50-yard touchdown to him a game if it doesn't hit it, But I think he could be in a GPP winning lineup at 1,400. But I think on the other side of the ball, there's too many valuable options down here that you don't really need to take the risk on somebody like Washington in cash. Benny Snell, I don't really I don't know how they're gonna divvy up carries and things like that, but um, he has equally as much risk just to be awful, just like James Conner. I just see a situation where they don't even care about really running the ball, and they can use their short passing game to move down the field, and that is essentially their running game. All right, the Cleveland side of the ball, I think there's some awesome value plays that I'll talk about here in a second. Nick Chubb's form is really tough to fade, but I do think the overall matchup being an underdog, I think you could make a case for it, but I don't think it is necessarily, I'm not saying like fade Nick Chubb. I'm thinking in a vacuum, if they're losing here in the third quarter, kind of going back to like what it looked like against the Ravens, where they're down 2 scores at the end of the third quarter, you're going to see a majority of Kareem Hunt, which I think, he can definitely still get there, Chubb, but I do think that the game script could definitely get out of hand for him, and then it's going to make him tough to get to that 15, 20 points. So I think he's in play, and he's definitely going to have touchdown equity when the Browns get close in the red zone. So I am not saying fade him, but I am saying that be a little bit cautious when you're paying 10,200 for him in this type of matchup. Baker Mayfield, 9,600. I think, I like him a lot here. I think he is going to, just with everything going on, even if he's got a lineman out or a receiver out or whatever it's going to be, he's going to be like, put the game on my back. I'm going to do whatever I can to win this game. And I do actually take that narrative into a playoff game like this that's really monumental for the Browns, and really significant. So I just don't think they go down without a fight here. Jarvis Landry is going to be his number one target at 9,000. I think he is firmly in play as well. So I could see a case where maybe you fade Chubb and you play Landry plus Baker. Maybe that correlation of being down in the game and also correlating is a nice way to go after it. And then you can even double down and correlate with Kareem Hunt, who I think is massively underpriced as well at 6,400, just because I do think they'll be losing. You take some of these games that they've been losing, like the Jets game they were losing. So we had 3 catches for 41 yards, had the rushing touchdown. Baltimore game, obviously they were losing late. He was playing like a majority of the game. You see some of these other games that were closer, they were losing. The Cincinnati game, that was like a shootout. He's going to get in the game. I don't think he's a lock at 6,400 by any means, but I do think he is a great upside play. I think, Chubb is just more cashy, but you're talking about nearly $4,000 price difference between the two. Who I do love, though, down here is Higgins at 5,000, who I think is way too cheap, and Austin Hooper, who I also think is mega cheap. Now, this is a time where like these two guys, 4,800 and 5,000 for these two, I much prefer these two over the kickers. Like there is enough safety plus upside in these two guys, kind of like I talked about Gus Edwards in the Baltimore slate, that these two guys are phenomenal plays at their price points, that if you can use the salary to get to them over Cody Parkey or Chris Boswell, I prefer that. So Parkey in play, though, as a kicker. Then we get down to some other really nice value. Peoples-Jones is expected to play at 2,000, is going to be a phenomenal value. I love Harrison Bryant at 800. The guy's been on the field. They're not just like, he didn't play. I don't think he played week 17, but I expect him to be good to go. I think he is going to play, but he's playing as a number 2 tight end, but he's on the field quite a bit. Love him. Njoku obviously also rotates in there at 1,600. He's a great value. So right here you have 3 guys plus these two. I mean, there's just some really underpriced plays here for the Browns. And it will take some building to kind of figure out where you want to land on. So let's look at the slate as a whole. My favorite cash plays are Deontay Johnson, Baker Mayfield, and then probably Chubb or Roethlisberger. I don't know. I think there's enough value that you can get 4 of these guys if you want. Um, let's just go ahead and let's just captain Deontay Johnson. I'm gonna just pretend like I'm gonna fade Roethlisberger here. I'm gonna go with Baker. Let's go Baker, Chubb, and Smith Schuster, and you still have a path to easily get to one of like Hooper here. And then you could go Njoku, you could go Harrison Bryant. You could upgrade, you could even upgrade Smith Schuster all the way up to Roethlisberger. Now, here in this case, you can't get up to Bryant, so you may have to go a cheaper captain, I don't know if Baker's cheap enough compared to Deontay. Probably not. You might have to go, yeah, you might have to go down from Chubb or something. But again, there's a path that you can use to get to, I wouldn't go below Bryant in your value, and you could go as high up to Peoples Jones. So I think there's going to be a lot of great ways to build for this slate. And if you want my core plays, they will be in our premium NFL Discord channel at Fantasy Sports Insight. Again, if you appreciate this video content, hit the like button, give me a comment. I will have NHL content out all season here on our channel that will be free, and all the core plays for every single slate will be available in our premium Discord channel. So thanks a lot for listening. Hopefully you had a great Sunday and you continue to win tonight.